there. This is WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio. Internet Singles Talk Network is www.goingsolomedia.com. I'm Christine Baumgartner. I'm a dating and relationship coach. And I'm here to talk today about those awkward, stressful, hard first conversations that we have on the phone, or virtually, or in person. So often I hear, especially women say, why did this talk about himself? I didn't even get a word in edgewise. He didn't ask me one thing about himself. I'm hoping if anyone's watching, if this happened to you, will pop into the chat and say, yes, this has happened to me. If it hasn't happened to you, I'd love to know how you got around it, because I'm going to give you some suggestions today. And then from men, I hear, all they did was interview me. They just kept asking me questions. I didn't find anything out about them. They didn't tell me anything about them. I asked them to tell me stuff about them, and they just didn't. So I'm here to give you some solutions, because it is a very common problem in this study. So it's very often. So I want to give you a little overview about generally why men and women seem to talk for different reasons. We really have a different way of looking at connecting and talking. And sometimes when women just don't understand it, and that's what leads to the opposite. So generally, when men are talking, especially to other men, or even to women, they generally talk for three main reasons. They talk to share information. Did you see that on the news? Did you hear the sports scores? What's the latest update in politics? They're reporting the news. The second reason they talk is to share some exciting accomplishments that they've had. They completed a project, they got a new job, they overcame an obstacle. And the third reason they talk is if they have a problem and they've really been trying to solve it on their own and they haven't come up with a solution, they seek out an expert and they'll ask them. So they expect that when they get done talking about their problem, that the expert will give them the solution right away. They often don't chat. They often don't just chit chat. Not that they don't, but it's been my experience that they don't chit chat really as much as women do. So the reasons that women generally talk is we talk often because we're full of feelings. We're full of excitement, sad, mad, happy, frustrated. We get filled up to the brim with our feelings. And we need to talk about it often. We do. Often most women need to talk about their feelings to get them out, because we just feel like we're going to explode. It's often a thing that women will say to a man, I think you'll feel better if you talk about it. And it isn't always the case. Sometimes they do, but often they want to do an action to feel better. But we want to talk about it. This is a generalization. I'm sure there are women that are exceptions, but it's good to know what the general population is doing, even if you're an exception. The other reason women talk is we want to talk about what's going on for us, how we're feeling, what we think about something, and we want to see how the other person reacts. Do they react positively? Do they seem to be interested in what we're saying? Do they push back? Do they argue? Do they seem to accept this is really how we feel? And the third reason we do talk is to see how we feel about talking to them. Do we feel safe? Do we feel comfortable? Do we feel heard? Do we feel listened to? So if we go back to the first date, and the way that we feel women feel cared about is to be asked questions and told, it tells us that you're interested in what we have to say if we ask these questions. And a man knows to tell us about him, but he doesn't necessarily know. Now, the reason a man thinks he should tell you about him is generally, this is just generalities, but it's a high percentage generality, when a man goes out with a woman, it's because he likes her well enough to spend his time making money with her. He's already made up his mind that he likes her enough. I say this to kind of like shopping. Often when men go shopping, they find a shirt they like, and then they buy two, and then they do that. Or they find shoes that they like, and they buy more than one pair, so they don't have to go shopping. Generally, not all women, but generally, we women will go to a store, not right now, but in the past, before the virus, and we would try on something, and then we would ask, you know, you do this, every single person, or at least two people in the store that you don't even know, that what do they think of it? To see if they like it too. And we'll never try on more than one dress or blouse or something in the store and continue to ask other people what they think. And we might even go to another store in the mall, and we might even go to another mall. Well, our dating day of dating for women is kind of like that. We don't know if we like a man just because we're out with him. We're seeing what it's up. So we see how we feel about them and how they seem to feel about us. So because the man knows that you're talking like that he needs to make up your mind, he knows he has to tell you about himself. And he's really comfortable about telling you about himself. And because you want to show you're interested, you come with your list of questions or you're going to show you're interested by asking questions. And then you keep asking questions and he keeps answering. So you see where you don't get to talk about you and he gets tired of answering questions in the interview. So I'm going to give you solutions for both sides. What a woman could do and what a man could do to make this conversation go a little smoother. And if you've never tried it this way and you're not having success with this conversation and not feeling like you're comfortable getting to a second date or a third date, you might want to consider trying it. So, from the man's point of view, we're going to ask you questions for the same reason I've explained that we want you to feel like you're interested. We want to find out about you. So after we've asked you a question, so let's say travel is really important to me, and I want to find out where you like to travel, what was your favorite place you just went, or I could ask you, do you like to go with plans, or do you like to go and figure it out when you get there? And then you answer how your feelings are about travel and what kind of things you do. And then the secret is, you turn around and you ask me, that's what we do, because that will make me feel heard. That will show me that you're interested in me. And I have fed you a question that I'm really interested in sharing that because I'm asking you because it's important to me. So for a woman, if a man just doesn't know that it's really good to ask you a question, then it's important for you when you ask him this question and he answers it, then turn around and tell him, great, that was so interesting and wow, I've never been there and this is my preference when I go traveling. So when my husband and I had this conversation, I was more of a plan maker. He was a little more fly by the seat of his pants. But we talked about it, and it worked out that it was an easy thing to do. Because he was fine making plans, and I knew that if we had plans, we knew we had hotel to stay in and flights, that if we came up with some interesting thing to do when we were there, that might be fun, and he would find it out and I'd go along. But if you're completely opposite, I did actually speak to him before, and it was great, and they were campers. I'm not a camper. I'm not even an RV person. I just think all the people that like doing that, good. I'm not taking up any of your doing that there because I'm happy to go out and go hike and go 30 and go river rafting, but boy, I want a hotel room with unlimited hot water and extra towels and extra colors and anything you need to go for breakfast and stay. So when you're talking with someone, either email or phone or virtually or Sunday or virtually in person, when you talk about things that are important to you in your life, you find out, are you this far apart or are you this? Is it something to look at and it might be an adventure, it might be a compromise, or are you too far apart and that would be a deal? So after the man has answered your question, then be sure to tell him all about your comfort level, about what you like to do as far as practice. So how do you come up with the questions? That's always a really big sticking point for people. So what I tell people to do is to make out a list of the traits that are really important to you in a person. And I use four categories of mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So if you write down the traits, so if traveling is really important to you write down travel. If you have children, you have grandchildren, and you spend time with them every week, you want somebody who likes being around children, write that down. If religion is important to you, write that down. So in the mental part, you write about how they think. How you would prefer them to think about the world, think about themselves, think about their families, think about their friends. In the emotional part, how do they handle the world? Are they a stoic person? Are they an easygoing person? Are they a jolly person? And think of their emotional personality and just write down some words. And then physical, go ahead, write down the things that you would like, if there's a reason that it's occurred, and then spiritual. Is spiritual really important to you? A little bit important? Not important at all? Write it down. And then just as important is to make a list of the things that you can't have in a relationship. So I can't have camping. Camping doesn't work for me. And people have said, well, why would I make that a list of what I don't want? Because I don't want that to come. I said, because you're going to have, make sure that this isn't going to come, because you're going to make that a list of what you don't want. And then you're going to make sure you have a corresponding item on your what I have to have list. So because I don't like camping, I have to put on it that I want a man that is comfortable staying in his house. That isn't comfortable. Certainly doesn't expect me to be. And so then you take each of those words, so we can go back to traveling, and you make a sentence about it. So what would be a sentence that I talked about with traveling? I like making plans. I like somebody who likes to make plans. I like knowing that we have airline reservations. I like knowing that we have hotel reservations. I like knowing that we might go on some tours. I like sort of arrange things. So I write that down. I wrote that down on my list. So I got my list because I've written those down. And make a whole sentence out of it. Because then what you're going to do with those sentences is you're going to create more curious. So here you are back to asking them questions. And you say, I'm curious how you think about traveling. This is what I do when I go traveling. What do you do when you go traveling? Do you like traveling? Do you like domestic traveling? Do you like international traveling? And I equate it kind of like a tennis match. So you're lobbing the ball over to them, whether you're the man or the woman, because whoever I'm talking to now gets to start this. And then you give them a chance to lob the ball back. So you ask them a question, and then you answer it as if they've asked you. If they don't know to ask you the question, be sure that you share the same information back with them. Now, I'm not saying your whole entire first conversation is created with all these I'm curious questions, but it's nice to have between 2 and 4 thought out so that you'll be sure to find out, do they have these requirements of yours? Because if they don't, if they have deal breakers, then you aren't going to want to go out a second time. But if they have some of these things in common with you, then why wouldn't you want to go out with them a second time and learn more about it? So certainly the conversation will still include what you do today, and how do you spend your leisure time, and what you do with your friends, and about your family. And you can share all those things and curious questions as well. But I don't want it to feel stilted, but I think so often when we don't have some sort of a plan, some sort of a foundation, and it can feel more confusing, and you don't know what to say, and you get tongue-tied. Like, oh my gosh, especially for really cute, and you really don't know what to say. So if you come with a plan, your conversation will go smoother, and the goal of a first conversation is to see how comfortable you feel, how entice having another conversation with you. Now, I will say that I've certainly met a few friends who aren't as comfortable talking on the phone. They do better texting, they do better in person. So I certainly give some grace that if they don't know what to say and they are kind of quiet or they stutter a little, I think, oh, it's because they're just not good on the phone. And that's another reason to have some really good questions to ask about curiosity about their life, because most of the time people are pretty comfortable talking about their life and they want to share with you. And if you say it in an interested way, they'll be happy to share with you. And it will help bring them out a little more. So mostly what you're listening to is their willingness to have a conversation with you, their willingness to be open, their willingness to answer these still surface questions, but you have a point to your question. I hope you see that. I think people actually watching it, love this, and resonate with this, or sounds like it's doing it. It sounds like something that you think you could use. That's so focusing. So you can see why if you fill out this list, you would have a great foundation for a beginning conversation. It would make you feel more comfortable, it would potentially make them feel more comfortable, and to see if you want to keep them. I mean, I really think it's a great list for figuring out who you want. So if you, so sorry that my microphone is going in and out. I'm sitting perfectly still, and then what you do it. You think you should start over again? Mhm. I'm not sure you even hear what I said if it was going in and out. Sure, that'd be great.
Hey.
So
Well,
weird.
yeah, it sounds like we're having trouble with the mic, and I don't know why. So
I'm using the same one I used last time where you said it was so wonderful.
now you sound fine. So I don't know what it is. So everyone, please hang in there. But I noticed it was going in and out, and when I was going to let you know, then it was coming back. So it's like going in and out. So
That's so weird. So you asked me a question about a first date that you've been on. That did you ever try anything like this? Did it ever work for you? What do you think about my advice?
well, I was trying to hear it. So
Oh,
I was struggling with hearing some of it because it was going in and out, and I was concentrating more on trying to get you working here properly. But I will tell you that when you first meet and you're talking, it's so difficult because you kind of you want to be original, right? You don't want to ask the same, like, well, are you working? What do you do? So you want to be a little bit creative in your asking questions, and so that's what I think is trying to be creative. I like to say things like, what's your favorite color, or what's your favorite song or something like that. I try to do things like that. What do you think?
Oh, I loved asking. I like asking, how do you spend your Sundays? Tell me about a
Oh,
typical Sunday.
yeah.
Because, some people want to go for a run, or some people want to get the newspaper, and some people want coffee right away or breakfast right away or turn on the news. And it tells you a lot about a person, what they do on their downtime, or if they even have downtime, because you would imagine a Sunday might be a downtime. Do they go to church? Do they have dinner with their family every Sunday? I mean, I've gotten probably one of the widest variety of answers asking about a Sunday.
Yeah, that's a great advice because that's true. And one thing I always kind of like to know, and maybe you can help me with this, is I like to know if they're a morning person or an after, or a late night person, because I tend to be a morning person. So that, so I don't know how to go about asking that without being insulting. What would you recommend?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways. You could use the technique of saying, gosh, I just spring out of bed in the morning with a smile on my face and tons of energy. And boy, it's been interesting with the variety of people I've known in my life, how they've reacted to that. How are you in the mornings? So you're not being judgmental, you're just being curious.
Oh,
Tell me who you are in the mornings.
Yeah, that's really good. And then another thing, and let's take just a moment of silence, and then so we can drop in the commercial. So we'll just put that up. So you guys are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. And if you'll just hold with us 1 minute, you're listening to Christine Baumgartner, and she is the host of The Perfect Catch. And let's talk. So we'll be right back. So just hang on 1 minute. We're just doing a moment of silence. Okay, thank you, everyone. You're listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, and you're listening to The Perfect Catch. Let's talk. We have host Christine Baumgartner. She's a dating and relationship coach. This is her show. I'm just kind of being her sidekick here today because we're having some volume problems. But and we're talking about the first conversations, being successful in your first conversations, date on the phone or online. And Christine, I want to ask you the dreaded question we all seem to want to know what to do is what happens when the conversation turns inappropriate?
Mm-hmm.
What do we do? I mean, we kind of feel like the person is a nice guy, but for some reason it's kind of gone in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. And how do we gracefully pull that out as a woman without being too, slap them in the face?
I know. It's such a good question. Thank you for asking it. So what I do personally and what I suggest to my clients is, because we'll go back to, he's a good guy. He seems like a good guy. He's uncomfortable. I have guys tell me that not only do they feel like they put one foot in their mouth, but they should just sit down because they put both feet in their mouth and they were so embarrassed and they didn't mean to say what they said. And then the hard thing too is that some men have had women come on to them. And when I met my late husband, he told me that he had met 2 women before me, and both of them invited him to pick them up at their house. And when he took them back, they invited him in and offered sex, the first date. And he was like, no, thank you. So what I have done, if I truly believe that this is a good guy, and I'll tell you another story, but I'll answer your question. I have said, so your comment made me uncomfortable. It feels too personal right now for this early of a meeting. I'm fine continuing talking to you, but you can't bring that subject up again right now. So what I've done is said, this is my boundary. This is how I need to be treated. And here's the variety of responses I've had, because it's happened to me more than once. Some of them say, you're too sensitive. I can't believe that upset you. Or, huh, well, I guess maybe or you don't really care about sex. I've heard that. And so both of those people, I've said, gosh, it was nice meeting you. I'm leaving. Bye. Because they didn't respect my boundary. And this is a pretty small, easy boundary. So what are they going to do if I give them a bigger boundary later? But 90% of the men that had brought up some sort of sexual innuendo or something even more blatant, that I said, you know, I'm not comfortable and I need you to change the subject and I need you to not talk about that right now, all went, oh, okay, I'm so sorry, I won't do that again. And they didn't. They stopped. So I continued to have a date with them that night or afternoon and continued dating them in the future. As long as I say, I know where I stand, what makes me comfortable. I am not being a bitch. I'm not being a prude. They have not earned the right to talk about sex with me. They have not earned the right to talk about anything to do with my sexual part of my body. They need to earn that right. And I give them the benefit of the doubt. I do. Generally, I give them the benefit of the doubt and I give them a chance to say, oops, sorry. So I had a date once with this man who we met at a Greek restaurant near where I live. And the way that you got to the entrance is you parked in a parking lot in the back and there was this gorgeous arbor that you walked through to the door. We happened to get there at the same time in the parking lot. So we approached the door at the same time and he opened it for me. And then he leaned down and he said, wow, wouldn't this be a great place to have an affair? And I went, what a strange thing to say at a first meeting. So we go in, we sit down, the waiter comes over, he takes our order, he leaves. And I said, you know, I have to tell you, your comment at the door made me uncomfortable. And we had talked a couple times on the phone and I was really kind of surprised you said that. And he goes, I have been thinking about it the whole time. I'm so embarrassed. I can't believe I said it. It just popped out of my mouth because his wife had cheated on him and he had found out that she was having an affair and they'd been divorced and he's now raising the children on his own. So he was relieved that I didn't yell at him. He was relieved I didn't smack his face and rush out the door because he truly was this good guy who was just, I was the first person he'd gone out with. He didn't know what in the heck he was doing. So we ended up this is way before I was a coach. We had a conversation about, it sounds like you need to just step back and take care of your kids and heal your heart. And you might do better dating later. And he was so grateful. We had this whole amazing lunch, great conversation, handshake. I never heard from him again. And what it does for me as a woman and what I hope it does for my clients is we don't leave thinking men are shits. Because even the men who told me I was too sensitive and that I was just being a prude, they were not my kind of guys. So I didn't take them personally. I didn't get mad at all men. I just said, oh, maybe I need to ask a couple other questions before I meet them in person. Because what I did with every date was I felt like, what am I going to learn about me? What am I going to learn about my boundaries? What am I going to learn about how I'm going to talk about my boundaries? What am I going to learn about what I think about men and what I need to ask them before I meet them and while I'm meeting them? Which is why I can honestly say I sat across the table truly from over hundreds of men. I was single for a very long time. And I had no awful dates. I wouldn't even say that the affair guy was an awful date. He was a lovely man. We had a lovely conversation. He just put his foot in his mouth because of his uncomfortableness and his lack of experience and just his hurt heart because his wife had had an affair. So I think if we go with that attitude of they're a good guy, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll be grace with him. He's not a good guy. I'm not spending any more time talking to him. I've gotten up and walked out. Nice. Sorry. I'm not oversensitive. And thank you for the whatever, the drink or whatever. Bye-bye. Because if they're going to push back, they're there to please me. They're there to have me go out with them a second time. I mean, if they're a good bullshitter, you think they wouldn't do that. But the ones that are really crass, the ones that only want sex on the first date or the second date, they're going to show their colors generally right away. And we've been taught as women, you can't speak up for yourself, don't make waves, it's bitchy to speak up. But I'm now showing you a way to do it in the most graceful, feminine, great, firm boundary way that, yeah, I would say they got a little offended because I didn't give in, but I never had them yell at me or get up and chase me out the door. I just said, oh, this isn't going to work. Bye. And off I went on my little way.
That's great. Now, what would you say about past relationships? You know, like if you're divorced or whatever, and the guy, you know, mentions his ex or asks you questions. What is the protocol on that?
So I generally didn't ask on the first date ever, but a lot of them offered. And so I listened. I want to hear. First, I want to hear what kind of a relationship they have. I mean, is it fighting all the time? Are they fighting over the kids? Are they in the middle of this rancorous divorce? Are they hateful towards each other? I mean, who wants to be with somebody that's got that going on in their life? I don't care how cute they are. And generally what I'd hear is either that, you know, they're all in a big fight, or, I mean, I had talked to men who had the best relationships with their exes. They were co-parenting. They still admired I had one that his wife, oh, don't we love this job? She was a personal shopper and packer for really wealthy people. So she'd buy all their clothes for them. And then when they'd go on one of their really fancy trips, she'd go pack all their suitcases for them. Isn't that a great job? I mean, I don't know that I'd be good at it, but it sounded like a fun job. And he just went on and on about how much he admired her and loved that job. And so if somebody brings it up, my other question I always ask is, what do you think caused the divorce? What do you think caused the split up? And often you'll start with the other person. Well, this is what they did or what they said or blah, blah, blah. And if they don't volunteer, I want to go, so what do you think was your responsibility? What do you think was part of yours? Because it takes two people to make a happy marriage, and it takes two people to have a marriage dissolve. And when my late husband, he'd been married twice before, and it was maybe our fourth or fifth date, it came up that he'd been married twice before. So I said, okay, I have questions. He took full responsibility for both of the divorces, which I was very admiring of. And, you know, it was both people for sure. Mm-hmm. And I will also tell you, he never once asked me about mine. And so I finally, I don't know, we'd maybe gone out 10 times. And I said, you haven't asked. I mean, he knew I was divorced. And I said, you never asked me. He goes, I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. And I was like, oh, how could you not like this guy?
Yeah, sounds like dreamboat for sure. Yeah.
So I've had that experience quite a bit where I've shown them my boundaries early in this nice way. I say, gosh, I really appreciate you calling me. I appreciate you calling me when you say you do. I appreciate you checking in with me the day of the date. When I give them these parameters of what makes me happy, it's also a way to see, do they care about that? Do they care about making me happy? Do they understand that I have boundaries and parameters? Because one of the things that men really like is if we say, this is what I want and need. This is what makes me happy in a very nice way. When my husband found out I like flowers, because not everybody does, but I love getting flowers. I just do. My house was filled with flowers always. From the day he heard about that, 1-800-Flowers came to my door a lot. Because I told him in conversation. And it wasn't that I wouldn't have gone out with him if he didn't send me flowers. It was just in the conversation. These are the things I like. Like, I don't like camping. Good thing he didn't either. He also was explaining to me one day about how he and his son did these practical jokes on each other. Mm-hmm. And I listened. And I said, oh my, you need to know that I don't find practical jokes good at all. I don't think they're funny. and never do one to me. I'm happy to listen to what you guys do because you get such a kick out of it, and it was their thing. So he never, ever, ever, and he told everybody else, never, ever. So what happens, so the third list, I was talking about the list, maybe nobody even heard it because of the microphone, but what you have to have in a relationship and what you can't have in a relationship, the third list is, who are you? Who are you? What do you bring to a relationship? What wonderfulness are you? And women oftentimes have trouble making this list out. So I tell them, ask a friend, ask your best friend. Why are we friends? What do you like about me? Tell me all the good things about me. And then write it down, even if you go, oh, poo, 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 because they're going to tell you the truth if they really like you and they're your, want your best. They have your best interest at heart. So if you feel like a good person and you have lots to offer in a relationship, it helped me put up boundaries of, well, this is what I would need from somebody who wants to be in my life. I need you to respect me. I need you to treat me with kindness. I need you to treat the servers around me with kindness. And so I could express that to them. One of the other things that people, so I go back to the practical jokes, often in people's profiles, and often in these lists that I'm saying, they say they want somebody that's funny or that makes them laugh or has a sense of humor. Well, that's really when you need to turn it into a sentence, because you need to talk about on your list what makes you laugh. What things have made you laugh before? What kind of sense of humor do you have? So that you can tell that to the other person to see, do they have the same kind of sense of humor? My husband made me laugh a lot with no practical jokes, because I liked his sense of humor, and he actually thought I was funny too. So the more you know about yourself, the more clear you are about who you are and what you need and what makes you tick, what makes you happy, what also makes you unhappy. So you can now tell the other person, it gives you a better shot at going through a first meeting and a second meeting and a third meeting to see if they're the right person for you, to see if you're the right person for them. You disappeared and I was having so much fun talking to
you. No, I'm still here. I was just putting you up because you were doing such a wonderful job. And you're so right about, everything, I think, when it comes to your, these first conversations, because it's not only just about what's happening within the conversation, but also how it's making you feel, how it's making them feel, how you're blending, putting something together. We sometimes don't realize the importance of the different steps that we have to go through when we're starting to build a relationship. You just can't go from A to Z and it be so quick. So it's really great to have your advice to be able to know what to do and what not to do. And even if we muck it up, to know that, you've been there and you've done that too. So you don't quite so alone, with it.
Oh, it's all a learning curve. I tell people I feel like I should have a 12-step program for dating, because I did go out with so many men. And the part where you go back and apologize to people, oh my gosh, I have so many men I would apologize for how I treated them and how I didn't know better then. I mean, what I teach now is because I had to learn this. I had no idea how to do this. Mm-hmm. I dismissed men. It was terrible, terrible, the things that I thought and misunderstood. And I mean, I'll tell you, I'll be totally transparent, tell you one of my worst things. This poor guy, I invite him over for dinner, and it's way before cell phones, the dark ages. And he got caught in traffic on the way, and he was maybe 10 minutes late, and I hadn't had lunch. So I'm in a pissy mood, but I am not admitting I'm in a pissy mood to myself. So the poor guy walks in the door, and we'd probably gone out. I didn't let anybody come over until 5 or 6 dates. So it was probably 5 or 6 dates. And he knocks on the door, and I'm fuming because he's late. He's late. 10 whole minutes. Oh, please. I was such a bitch. And he's got flour in his hand, and I open the door and I go, well, that's one. And he goes, one what? I go, that's one. And he's like, oh my God. I mean, isn't that horrible? There was no coach in that body at all. I mean, I'm telling you, people go, oh, how do you know all this? I go, because I did all these awful things. I did awful things. And I am okay telling people that because you've all done awful things. I mean, I do. I feel like that was such an awful thing to do to this really nice guy. Okay,
Well, you were upset. You were upset. You know, my problem is I'm always too nice about things. And so then I feel at times I'm being taken advantage, but it's my own fault because I'm too nice. So yeah. So I let things go far too long or too
And why
much.
do you think you do that?
Probably my own insecurities, I would think. You know, I'm better at it now, but when I was first starting to date, I think some of it was my own insecurities, you know, that and also just being naive, you know, just being naive when I first started dating. So I did have a guy that was late one time, and he was really late, and to the point where I was about ready to leave the house because I got up, so I was getting upset myself, and I thought, oh, he's a no-show, so maybe I just go somewhere and do something. But then he came, and then he told me how he got stuck on traffic and all this kind of stuff, and he had like your guy, he had stuff with him, and he was trying to make it really, really special, and so it ended up being a really great date, but I was much nicer about it. But I know how you feel because you feel like, and I think guys would feel it too if you're supposed to meet someone and they don't show up or whatever. It's like, yeah. So it's just being kind to each other.
Very much. So what I have found is I thought having boundaries would make me bitchier. It's made me even nicer because I don't get taken advantage of. Nobody walks on me now. I so nicely say, well, this is where my comfort zone is. And then I watch to see what they do. And one of the things I've learned, because half my clients are men, is they find self-confidence really sexy, super sexy. Now, women are like, oh, I'm too independent, and men don't like that. Well, they like being needed. They like having a place in our life. So when I say this is what would make me happy, they now have something to do to please me, something to provide for me. That's what they want. They want to feel needed. They want to feel like they have a purpose in our life. And so often, if we've been single for a while, we're so used to doing it ourselves. We're used to just accomplishing everything that we forget to step back and go, gosh, you know, would you put gas in my car? Or would you take out the trash? Or would you give me some advice about something? Which lets us receive, which the really good part about receiving for women is, and we like this right now in our lives, it increases our estrogen level. And don't we all just want a little more shot of that in these days?
For sure. For sure.
And giving them a chance to provide raises their testosterone level, which is how the world runs better.
Right.
If they get to provide and we get to receive. Now, the thing that I'm telling women is this is one of our superpowers, because the only way they can give us anything or we receive them is to allow. And the way that we allow them in this really safe way is to be really clear about our boundaries. So you see, there's always this foundation. I tell people, you need to build your dating on a cement foundation and not on sand, which is they go, oh, these lists are too much work. But I said, well, if it's not working the other way, you might want to try it this way. You can try it and tell me, Christina, didn't work. That doesn't happen. But you could be the first that makes out the list and does all the work and it still doesn't work. But usually, because it's what happened for me, I started dating differently, which is how I met my late husband. I would not have met him without doing this work.
Well, you know, I think it's so great to have, you know, coaches and stuff. I know that I also do some coaching and things like that, but I do it in a different format. But the thing is everyone has a different perspective of doing something. And so what you do is you take a little of this and a little of that and you put it together, and you really find something that works for you. And I think what you do is really awesome. And I'm looking forward to all your shows, but we're going to have to kind of wrap this one up. But do you know what you're doing next week, or do you have a title for that one yet? Or I have to put you on the spot.
Well, No. I'm
Okay. Well, we'll find out what that is. But everyone,
to be revealed.
yes. So that'll be good. So you guys, if you want to reach Christine, here's her information. It's Christine@theperfectcatch.com, and her website is theperfectcatch.com. So it's just like it spelled, just like it sounds. It's Christine, CHRISTINE at the THE perfect PERFECT catch CATCH.com, and the same with her website, www.thethe perfect PERFECT CATCH.com. So make sure you guys contact her, let her know that you're enjoying her here on the Going Solo Network. That would be great. And I enjoyed the show very much, and I'm looking forward to what you have in store for us on the additional shows. And I'm sorry about your microphone. I don't know what the problem is, but as soon as I came up, you started sounding good. It's like I'm afraid to go away again.
Maybe I need to have a person. I don't know. Isn't that weird? Because it wasn't mine last week. It was Frank's last week.
Yeah, it was Frank's last week. Frank's was really terrible last week. Yeah. So, but hopefully, yeah, I mean, whatever, but I'm right here to help you and try to make sure that it goes well. But, you know, your content is so really good. It's so needed. And I just hope that people will tune in and listen. And I know they'll, you know, maybe even the rebroadcast, that would be great. So, but yeah. So,
yeah, when you send me the thing, I've been sharing it. So I know that people have been listening to it after, I think.
Great. And then also everyone, this show is live on YouTube and it's live on Facebook right here. So each week at 4:00. So please tune in, and that would be great. Okay. All right. We're going to close it out. Pardon?
I had one other additional question, but I can ask you off the
No,
show.
go ahead. Oh, you want to wait till after the show is done?
I want to know, can it only be on your Facebook Live? Can it be on my Facebook page at the same time, or does it only be one?
Yes, we can work that out if you'd like. I can do that.
I think I might get more people chiming in then.
Yeah, you just have to make me administrator of your Facebook page.
Okay.
And then I can attach it.
I'll figure out how to do that.
Yeah. I did share it to your page. So
yes.
Okay, you guys. So we're trying to get this worked out so you guys can find her everywhere. And so we want to make sure you guys do that. But on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network Radio, we have on our goingsolomedia.com. She has a page there with all her links, all her information, and also her past shows. So they're there along with YouTube and on Facebook. So, you know, you guys can find her. So there's no reason to get, you know, upset. We should have all this great information and content out there for everyone. Okay?
We're working it out together, huh?
We are certainly. All right. I'm going to sign off. So thank you, Christine, very much. It was a wonderful show.
Thank you, Cece. I loved it.
Okay. Bye.